Thanks for that, Brian.
It's all yours, Buck.
I hope the mic's on.
Oh, talk.
Oh, I see a bar moving.
Mic audio, yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everybody to the earliest Super Bowl pregame show on the internet.
There's a lot to talk about. This is the big game. We know the Patriots are going to win, but what's going to happen? I mean, anything could happen.
The Patriots are also good at losing Super Bowls as well as they're winning.
So, for the nobody who's here yet, I'm Brian, aNST Apocalypse.
It jumped to 3 immediately.
Oh, I did that? Oh, hey there.
Yeah.
And this is Bucky, aRST Northeast Apocalypse.
Yes.
Look at that. You'll notice our framing is...
Everything's weird and kind of off.
Hang on. Let me screw with this a little bit.
It's not changing anything. You're just making the weirdness
Whoa. Bigger. Yeah. Much more professional now. Look at that. Hang on, we'll get you. Okay.
You know what I love about this stream?
What's that?
Our tremendously high production values.
I think our production values just blow we're definitely blow everybody else out of the water in MES.
Yeah, okay.
I
mean, I can give you that.
At any rate, it's been a bit since we talked. It's been, I think, like 3 weeks. So, what's going on in the world? Things are happening. People say hello.
Oh, yeah. What is our adoring audience here?
Our friend Alexia says, evening, it's your favorite person. Very cinematic.
All caps, hi, Bucky.
Most movies have letterboxes on the top and bottom, but we're doing it on the sides because we're visionaries.
I really don't know what's going on.
Oh my god, your PC died. I'm sorry. I mean, congratulations.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Oh, so what's...
I don't know where to go with that.
So what's happened in the last month? MES national event teasers have gone out.
Mm-hmm.
We put out some word about that. We've rolled out the New Year's plot kits. You guys have been entertaining us on the boards.
Yep.
And things are pretty mellow otherwise. The world's pretty good.
Doled out a bunch of board members.
What's that? Oh yeah, for VST, yes. Yeah. I know a bunch of people got riled up yesterday about the Pentax boards of directors. Like, oh my god, those guys are out there. Oh my god, we should do something about that. Well, we've been releasing them to VSTs since midsummer. So they've all, as we've said in the stream before, they are out there. They're high-value optional objectives, and they pop into your game, and you have a plan. Take a run at them, but they are built to be... If not,
they're scary.
I mean, some are built to be difficult to kill, and others are built to kill you.
Yeah,
with some moderation between the two.
They're about what you would expect. Mm-hmm. Various subsidiary CEO types sheets to have. Yeah,
I'm really interested to see how this plays out, because as far as I know, nobody's ever really done something like what we're doing with the Pentax board, where we have these very...
No, usually they're purely flavor text. Mm-hmm. Or they're the kind of thing that you might get to if you're doing some sort of, like, really bananas tabletop type thing. But they're a decentralized threat that's a lot of fun. I like them. It gives a added richness to the world, and it shows a bigger rogues gallery. Mm-hmm. You could love to hate them, or you could just murder them. I don't really care.
My favorite reaction was I was talking to a storyteller about one of these loans about a week ago, and they said to me, "But what if they kill them?"
Well, then they're dead.
Then they're dead. That's what happens when you kill somebody.
What happens when the bad guys kill the good guys?
They stay dead.
Yeah. Well, generally,
unless you're a shark, in which case,
or you know, that
is more of a vacation.
Or you know, a death bear.
Yeah. Or you you're friends with everyone's favorite death bear.
With Mangy. Mangy the death bear.
Everybody loves Mangy. So they're out there. Best of luck. Storytellers aren't instructed to have anything like a insert Garu to continue demanded body count, but we do expect them to be run difficultly, and if you guys are clever, it could go very well.
Well, they're made with more and different templates than the PCs necessarily have, but they're not made with like Calvin Ball rules where like they have a power that's like they just win, or they can cause cutscenes. Like if you get the jump on it. I'd say a third of them are shockingly easy to kill. If for some reason you were ever in a room with them, it's getting them into a room that's generally the kind of thing that they've devoted their lives to not happen.
Well, the power levels are really can take on a pack, can take on a sept, and can take on a con game. And Victoria McDougal can probably take on a con. Not long, but because nobody can in BNS. But
yeah, well, I mean, it also depends on the pack and the sept.
Very much.
One of the Pentex board is essentially a weather pattern that just rolls into your city, and then nothing works, and everything is terrible. And I mean, most of them come with full influence suites, and then legions of minions who also have influence. Mm-hmm. But some of them take that to an art form, and are just like, "I'm here to wreck your game." And like, not you personally. They don't do a single dot of damage, but everything that you know and love will be ruined over the course of months. Where others don't really want anything to do with Garrow. Not antagonists, not... they just don't care.
No.
They don't even register. I'm thinking mostly of the Digger, but, some members of the Board of Pentex just have their own goals, and it's not all about you.
Well, what else is new? Well, I'm sure everyone is binging Altered Carbon today, according to my Facebook, and I'm on episode 7. It's delightful.
About the same. It's very shockingly true to the book. And every review I read, I'm convinced the author didn't read the books.
Well...
Because usually when you talk about any property that was a series of books, any reviewer generally is like, well, how does this compare to the novels?
Yeah.
Or like, what did they change? What's the same? There is zero of that. I don't even know if most people know if it was a book.
Alexia, that question has actually already been posed to my staff and answered. So in the interest of not causing a conflict, I'm going to defer on answering that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's fine. It's a very refined Garulio question. It's a good question, and from my understanding, Callie's already on that one, so I'm not going to touch it.
Fair enough.
It may have been something said to a player. It has not yet, maybe not been posted. I think this conversation was like yesterday. But it has been addressed internally, and that internal addressing will emerge into the world where you guys are shortly, I expect. That being
like a butterfly from a chrysalis. Just give it time.
Having deflected that question, I will say we are open to any questions you guys have. If I can't answer them for some reason like that one, I will cheerfully answer your questions.
Right, or I'll make fun of them.
Yeah.
I won't really answer them though, because a lot of questions I can't.
Yeah. But yeah, Alter Carbon, it's good. It's good to see Angelica having survived Hamilton and gone on to lead an international space terrorist organization. It's good. I'm really, really proud of her. I'm sure, Eliza probably did. Well, we know how she turned out because how the songs ended. But Angelica, now we know how her story ends.
There is a problem with having read pretty much everything Richard K. Morgan... Richard K. Morgan? I think it's Richard K. Morgan. Has written. I can't discuss any of it without spoiling all of it.
That's fair. It's probably be a one-sided conversation.
Stuff that's set up in the opening... Well, it was the opening of the book. It's the opening flashback, sort of the show. But it's basically plotted out the exact same as the novel. Is paid off at the end of the third book.
It's good.
It is very well crafted.
Well, I think we can all say that James Purfoy is a delight in everything he's in.
James Purfoy's penis.
It appears in everything it's in. That is a man who you will see
shower.
Yes.
He is a shower.
Going back to Rome, we have seen that penis through the decades.
Most of us mere mortals look like a certain distinguished old man napping on a couple of beanbag chairs, or a tired thumb. But other folks are just sort of always kind of there, just looking down. And good on them.
You guys ready for Geru Prom?
Deep penis talk.
The great challenge of MessCon this year is threefold. We wanted to have a game where the story was stone simple. No one's going to be confused about what's going on, so it's going to be very straightforward. It's going to be on a 1 to 10 scale, probably 10 social, and the level of 1 to 10 violence scale, it's going to be 10. I mean, we're really going for it on both of those fronts. So if you're a person who doesn't really give a crap about going to a ball, don't worry.
Good news.
As anyone who's ever seen a fictional wedding goes, I'm sure everything will be fine. There'll be nothing bad happening. Red Talons and Tuxes I'm looking forward to.
Whether it's drama or comedy, weddings in fiction do not go as planned.
That's always true.
No one wants to watch a show where the food was perfectly well prepared, everybody enjoyed it, and you got to take home some Jordan Almonds credits. That is
good. Table favors. You got a beer cozy on your table. It's great.
Yeah, whether it's Father of the Bride or the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
obviously that is
a continuum.
That is a continuum of weddings in fiction. But
get in touch.
Stuff's gonna happen.
The wedding itself, we have the soundtrack ready for that, but somebody does need to DJ with the reception. So if you believe you've got the skills to DJ, get in touch with us, and we will get in touch with you. Well, in Lannisters always send their regards. They're very polite people.
Just know your staples. I was gonna say, look at the complexion of the room. The paler it gets, the more organized dancing. Whether it's chickens or electric slide, like
I swear to God, if somebody plays the fucking electric slide, Jesus Christ!
I mean, it's a wedding. First of all, I don't know if you could expect glamour from a wedding that doesn't have the chicken dance, the electric slide, or do you get banality for that? Like, I honestly don't know.
I do think you can't legally have a wedding without playing Sweet Caroline at least once. I think that
is a sign that you are a white person.
Oh, yes.
As white as I have my own cultural traditions. We dance in a circle. It's hugely different.
Oh, and there were chairs.
Dancing
it's
in
very
lines.
Exciting.
Those Greeks. Barbarous, really. Have they never seen circles?
Brian and Bucky will be at MessCon since we're running the Apocalypse event. So, yes, we are going to be there. Well, I will be there. Bucky may or may not be helping out, but he'll be there. Or not there.
I forgot. When is MessCon?
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. You may not be there. Late June.
I will. I mean, Kanahara, God willing, I will have almost a 1-month-old child. But either of our moms could be in town, so maybe I'm free. I don't know.
Be cool. I think Iggy's pretty much in at this point. Although he probably doesn't want everybody to say that. I don't know. We'll see. I'll buy you both a drink. You know, last year before Sierra, everybody said they were going to buy us drinks. I don't recall anybody buying us a single drink, Bucky.
We were sent a bottle of booze to our room.
Oh, that was nice. That was classy as fuck.
We were.
Yeah.
Somebody just got us an entire bottle of, I want to say bourbon?
It was bourbon. It was classy
like
as fuck.
Alchemist or something?
Yeah,
it was pretty nice.
Yeah.
When it came to actual bar tabs downstairs, I think people were just...
I'm not faulting anyone. I'm just saying, people say they'll buy you a drink all the time. They never come through with it.
I believe them.
You do? Okay. I believe in their hearts.
I believe.
Okay, so let's see what else is going on in the world. Not really any huge settings or rules changes in the last month. Settings facts pretty stable. We made a slight tweak to how kinfolk wolves are handled, but that wasn't really a tweak so much as a clarification of what we were already doing.
Are they conscious? Or are they semi-conscious?
Well, I think the danger is assigning any correlation between intelligence and consciousness. I mean, they're two separate things.
Well, I've always played my lupus as like, hey, remember when we were in our pre-conscious state?
Yeah.
Still like licked our own buttholes most of the time. Those were good times. Good times. There's a whole part of being a lupus I just don't want to think about. Procreating is definitely at the top
Are we
of the
going
list.
there? Is that something we're going to deal with tonight?
Well, it's all fun and games when you could be a lupus running in. You're like, I took persistent parents. Mom, Dad, try not to hump anything.
I'm glad they took that away from lupus because that was still there in an alpha. I thought that was hilarious.
Persistent parents with lupus will always be funny, guaranteed. There's no way that it's not funny. It gets even funnier with different Farah. It's just a Corax who has two crows falling around.
They made for life, you know.
They do. They made for life.
Oh shit!
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah. I thought some of the discussions that I saw on Facebook and other outlets about basically the role. I mean, your Lupus kinfolk can have gifts, right?
Yeah.
I still don't think that they're probably the best conversationalists, even if they're magic. And I think that that's a disconnect that's really only in, like, sort of a White Wolf mindset, right? Like, it's like, well, if they have powers and stats, then they're, like, totally conscious and I mean, they can practically be PCs. Where, like, in D&D, you have no problem believing that, like, an owlbear has spell-like abilities or can do crazy shit or fighter feats. Like, they're not ascribed any particular intelligence because they have magic powers.
Right. That correlation seems to be something that's endemic to the White Wolf world, yeah.
Yeah, where, like, the more powerful something is, generally the smarter it is. I mean, some of the stuff out of Book of the Wild aside, which is, like...
Well, Wheel of Time wolves, while sapient, are definitely an alien intelligence. Robert Jordan's wolves are very alien. It takes a long time for pairing.
I got a book and a half in and was like, nope. Nope. I'm going to take him at his word for book one that I already know how it ends. I'm going to reject these naming conventions whole cloth in their entirety. Those names are, I'm like, nope. Lost me. And then I was like, yeah, I don't care. This is a mythos that just did not speak to me on any level.
I got to book 7, made the mistake of checking the wiki, realized nothing happened in the next 4 books. Like, literally nothing happened. And then I picked them up again when Sanderson finished the series, because Sanderson's delightful.
I like Sanderson. Well, what was the Mistborn?
Yeah.
The Mistborn trilogy? I think it was just...
Well, there's 3, and then there's a second trilogy with Gunfighters.
Stormborn or something.
No, there's a second Mistborn trilogy.
But it has its own trilogy name, though. It's
no.
No?
Second Mistborn.
I mean, I read the beginning.
The Stormlight Archives is a whole other animal, but they are part of a larger shared.
They're hunting some.
We are so far off topic.
It's Wild West pseudo mages hunting a psychopath.
Yeah, that's the first book of the new trilogy. Yeah.
That's what I read, and then the next one wasn't out at the time, so I was like, I might go back to it. Yes, welcome to Brian and Bucky discuss pop. This is not pop culture. Discuss
nerd culture. Nerd culture. People love nerd culture.
The Nerd Crew. I feel like if we could rise to the level of Red Letters Media's making fun of us, that would.
I think we have a long way to go. I believe all 9 of our viewers. At any rate, teleprompter is warning us that we need to get back on track. So again, if you have any questions about anything about the Chronicle, or just want to talk about something or an issue, feel free to bring it up. Otherwise, we're just going to keep gabbing about whatever comes to mind until you all lose interest. It's pretty good.
So our local game got sort of small from being really, really big. Actually, I would say it probably became average size, but
Fianna 4. Just answer your question.
What the worst gift in the game?
Have
the worst gift ever. I'm sorry. The worst power in
it's
any
amazing.
White Wolf game.
This will derail any conversation. It's amazing.
I apologize.
It's still not taking the watch bad.
Taking the watch does something that isn't detrimental to everyone around you. Like, Fianna 4 is radioactivity levels of bad. Like, you may as well just punch your packmate. It's probably more helpful.
But no one has to buy it, so it's really not a huge problem.
Yeah, it's not required.
The Fianna have a bunch of really great gifts otherwise.
They do.
So
they're very good at what they do, which is avoiding Fianna 4. Which is the best level to avoid, because there's so many good, rank 4 gifts. Yeah. There really are. I mean, that's the money level.
Oh, we also realized how aNST kinfolk could... I was joking around with Foster. We figured out how aNST kinfolk could use their tribal gifts. Get gold.
Oh yeah,
you can get gold.
That would do. There's definitely no issues there. Everybody wants to be...
For an aNST?
Still Bloodbound.
Yeah, well.
And they took away Unbondable. That's not even a thing. Which, good on them. That's one of the things I liked about BNS Vampire.
Yeah.
I feel like, there's no Unbondable. This is just a mechanic you have to deal with. But, the flip side is they basically threw out morality. Bum-bum-bum-ba-dum-bum. Womp. Yeah, they could use Gnosis for... They can Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's good.
They can web swing.
People love web swing.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting story to talk about what happened with our local game. And
well, I was going to say, we had one interesting conversation. There was a great moment where it's sort of in and out of game. It was where the dialogue worked on either level. We all sort of looked at one player and were like, okay, so this is really more about just sort of your journey and, what did we say to Brian? It was this is now about your narrative journey of this is your redemption arc. We're all here for you. We're all supportive of that.
Well, what really happened was the local game, because of a variety of timing and some storyteller issues and some other stuff, ended up just dying. Our local VSS for Werewolf basically got toasted. I don't know. I've taken more of a hands-off approach with the local game, but it's kind of sad to see it happen. So they're trying to do a soft reboot right now.
Well, it can't really be on you. You can't have your own Petri dish game. And then also have an entire command line that starts at VST and then goes to aNST. And it's just you. That's not really healthy.
I do own many hats. But we're trying to soft reboot with it, where we're kind of like reestablishing the game. They're going to pick up the Cairn seed, move it, try to just erase the weight of history, and hopefully get players to come back. I'm really optimistic it'll work. But it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it was a very big game for a while. I feel like in retrospect there was a tremendous amount of non-game pressures that were pulling the game apart. Mm-hmm. There was a bunch of different crowds of people who all have what I can only describe as deep-rooted antipathy towards one another over various and sundry things, that some of which are years old, mm-hmm. Some of which is fresh beef, but there's a lot of that.
How's it being at aRST? What's that been like?
Quiet. I've been asked a few questions. It's mostly just... It's got me in the room with the STs, so I've just been able to respond to things without intermediaries. Mm-hmm. So instead of people having to just contact me and be like, hey Bucky, can you give me a hand with like this sheet, or what's this character about, or like how do this mechanics work, or what's your advice? I could just be in the ST group, and then, well, like for example, with the board of directors thing, they were given a list, so I was like, I basically made all of them, so I gave a little blurb of like what would be flavor text to know if you want to use them in your game, in like short context giving things for VSTs to use. Yeah, just little stuff like that. But it's been good. Matt knows what he's doing, so I don't...
Yeah, Matt knows APOC really well, so...
There's... I don't really have to lift much, but anything he needs, he can just poke me, so that works.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me, because people keep asking, I'm going to go ahead and make my Sherman statement now. I am not running for aNST. If elected, I will not serve. If nominated, I will not run. I have no desire to be aNST. I'm really enjoying running Apocalypse, and I just...
That's Sherman.
Yes, that's Sherman. I don't believe I'd be suited to that role. So people keep bringing it up to me, so I figure I'd just get this out of the way publicly. I am not running for aNST. So get that out of the way.
Yeah, I think you very vocally were like, I would never ever want to do that. Like some time ago.
Well, I think some people are really good. Like Josh has been amazing. I think Josh has done great work as aNST. And I know Josh is moving on because he's done his job. But somebody like what Josh did, we need somebody who can do what Josh did. And I don't have that skill set. And moreover, I just don't have interest. Like, I really love running a game. There's the logistical part of it, but just running the story and the narrative and keeping everybody working together, I just find it works really well for me. I think I'm in a good spot.
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah. If they said tomorrow, they're like, you can automatically be aNST, I'd be like, that's not good for anybody. Yeah. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. But again, if you believe you're qualified, I mean, we're coming to that window.
It just has to be the right shaped peg.
Yeah, to fit in the hole.
Being an aNST is a very specifically shaped hole. Mm-hmm. If that's the shaped peg you are, I say more power to you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm not that shape.
So, with that out of the way, we did some cool stuff last night. One of the, I'm debating what I can say. One of the major Croatan plot lines was resolved last night. I'm hoping that it gets public very quickly. We'll see what.
Oh yeah, I got to peek in.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the local games do with it, and if it gets out, I really hope it gets out because I'm actually very, very happy with how that turned out. Also, everybody say hello, Jason. Hello, Jason.
Oh, hey.
Which Jason? Jason Andrew. Okay. He's from BNS.
Oh, devs. Fucking devs. I don't know what kind of huggy, lovey-dovey treatment you think you're going to get from me, but you're not. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I like your product. I'm a grown man playing pretend on the weekends. Like, clearly I'm invested.
Look at all those faces rolling by.
Kappa.
Look at them all. They're beautiful. I just want
to... Kappa. So much Kappa.
Pull them right out of the air. Do we have any content tonight?
Well, I think part of the problem is you just dumped a tremendous amount of content right before we went on. It was like teasers and like little snippets and all sorts of stuff. So this is probably going to fall back to the stuff we're going to complain about. Unresolved issues, Q&A, and generally not talking about Cookie Clicker.
I feel good about it. Do the kinfolk get their own teaser? No, we're only doing teasers for the Farah, Concordat, and Sanctum for the national event. Kinfolk all belong to those factions, so you will get covered. So, yes, there will not be a specific Kinfolk teaser from ESCON.
I heart B-String Supernaturals.
Oh, yeah, God.
I do.
Some would say they're the real heroes. Or unsung heroes, or whatever the book was called.
I've spent a meaningful percentage of my life playing ghouls. Like, that statement sort of makes me sad, but it was rewarding at the time. I love me my B-String Supernaturals, but it's never about them. Even when, you know, by genre, you walk into a vampire game and there should be like 50 players, 10 of them are vampires. There were 40 of you are ghouls.
That has never happened. That's literally never happened.
It has literally never happened, and I would be rock hard for that game.
I gotta say, that would be an amazing chronicle to play in, where it's not the elders that are limited, but just vampires, period. Most players play the ghouls.
Just flat out be like, no, we're gonna go with, like, for every vampire, there's, like, 5 ghouls. And that's just a completely arbitrarily enforced thing by the game to enforce, like, camera... Well, it would be a Camarilla game. Mm-hmm. I think there'd be a lot more vampires in the Sabbat game, and it would make sense. It would make sense why everybody in the Sabbat game was a vampire, because they're like, ghouls are garbage.
Well, that's interesting.
And you could be like, I've been a vampire for 3 weeks, so I know everything there is to know. Yeah, I don't know. It's things I look forward to in BNS. More content.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That was really good.
More rules that fix a lot of things.
I considered playing a skin dancer. I don't know. It could be approved. It would have to be a hell of a sheet.
I don't know. I wouldn't even set the bar that high. I'd be like, go nuts. You walk into a game, you take a bunch of powers and presumptively merits to hide the fact that you're a skin dancer. Congrats, you're playing a worse werewolf.
I gotta say, if I was approving a skin dancer, I would kind of want it to be a sheet that's actually, like, able to live more than the first 5 minutes of session.
That's easy. I mean, I've made 3 different versions of a perfect infiltrator for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the only way you're catching these people out is if you're just cheating, or like they told you out of character that like they're totally working for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
But in game, there's a lot of perfect infiltration builds.
Mm-hmm. Which is good. I like that uncertainty. I like that.
Well, my favorite worm to wild one is definitely the perfect infiltrator who is a Galliard, which takes all of the pressure off of them.
Why is that?
Because you think about like the idea of the infiltrator comes in, they're like, well, they're gonna want to like find out things, and they're gonna want to, know our secrets and learn what's going on, and so they'll be the kind of person who walks up to you in the bonds like, hey, Sept Alpha up to anything there? No. Just be a Galliard. Like, legit, just be a Galliard. And people will fucking run up to you and tell you everything they did, everything their friends have ever done, all of their future plans, their dreams, if you can craft something for them. Like, they will lay out every part of their life in painful detail so that maybe it gets into the silver record. I don't even know. Mostly so you craft something for them. Or give them a token, or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things Galliards can do. But if you actually play a Galliard, one, you might immediately be the Tailkeeper, or
Tailsinger.
Tailsinger. In your game, there's not enough Galliards.
Right.
But on top of that, you're the perfect spy. Because people just run up and tell you shit. You don't have to do anything.
You have to go digging. It's very passive, yeah.
Not only that, you will be hard-pressed to just write it all down. Just write it down and send it to the bad guys.
I gotta say, I'm pretty sure there's a faction of our viewers who are just keeping a list of all your bad ideas. Like, somebody mentioned, like, 3 of them before. Like,
that guy is a sheep. That's already in play. I mean, all of these things are in play. Yeah. I didn't make up all these perfect infiltrators in both directions to not be used. Like, if you think everyone around you is legit, no, they're not. NPCs, PCs, trust no one. Well, why would you? This is a PC thing. When a player walks in with a character, they're just like, well, I know he's not a turncoat because that's not sanctioned for play. Don't ever think that. Do your due diligence. Think constantly.
Where are you? No, sorry. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Across the streams. No, but and it should be. I hope PCs are doing some of that, but it is a little bit more onerous, being like the Nuisha semi-perfect infiltrator and being like, I'm gonna go to the pit, and it's like, okay, you just want private ST time, like, that's cool, and I get that that's actually a thing you're supposed to do.
Right, it's worth it there, yeah, in large part.
But it is a little bit like, can we just do this in email because we're at session?
I think there's ways of executing that at session. You assume a lot of that background stuff happens during the downtime. But then during session, they can be pulling strings, trying to work both sides, doing all that spy movie shit of not getting caught and called out. I think there's a lot of good story there that we executed in a live game.
There is. But you should always be aware that if there is a Nuisha near you, that they could be fallen and are perfectly infiltrating you.
But they do tell the best jokes. They do have the best candy cannon. You can't hate them because they're a delightful candy cannon.
They're the best candy cannon. And no matter how serious the situation, you can just kind of squeeze out a fart, and it'll make it all better. You'll even get some willpower gnosis back. Okay, so I've rambled.
Yeah, you've done a great job of filling the air. I've covered, I think, everything I've got to cover. Usually you guys are a lot more lively. You're kind of leaving me hanging here. Not that that's your fault. It's my fault for not bringing enough content to the table.
It's also Friday night.
It is Friday night, not Sunday. They could actually be having lives.
Yeah, I'm going to assume most do. Mm-hmm. This is kind of an actual night that people do things, as opposed to and it's not like this Sunday night is that different. It's just there's a Super Bowl, so yeah. I know it. Many of us are going to be.
Even people who don't care about the Super Bowl are honoring those ancient Bonara rights, and they have to be at a party.
I hope that all of you do your part. and cursing Tom Brady's name.
Yeah, if you can just take a moment of your night and just say a curse for Tom Brady.
It's also a really easy way to instantly ingratiate yourself with any Buffalonian. Just end any sentence with also fuck Tom Brady.
That's good. Yeah. Like now you're in.
Done and done.
It's like one of those like secret society handshakes where like now you're just in.
Also, fuck Tom Brady.
Also fuck Tom Brady.
That's
good.
I see. You're a fellow.
Hang on. Willpower. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no.
That's
fill
good.
up.
Yeah, that's good.
We need that to deal with Patriots and their. You want to talk about a toxic fandom? Whoa, crossing my streams there too.
So one thing I can talk about while we have everybody here and we're all here together was kind of talking about what we want to see with the big changeling plot line we rolled out at the beginning of the year. This plot line where the changelings are showing up and really, really want to help. Who's playing the Superbowl? That's really good. This plotline is designed to not be Fianna focused. This is really about other people having a chance to interact with other people who are fighting the same war you are from a different perspective. And situations like that are really good, not just for seeing how somebody else does it, but seeing kind of a reflection of yourself and their reactions to you. I think there's just a lot of good story there that I'm looking forward to. I'm hearing stories about people exploring. But don't think that it's just a big Fianna thing. It's actually written to partially exclude the Fianna because the Fae are not 100% on board with the Fianna before the wedding. They're still uncomfortable with them. The tribal curse from the Fae is still in effect, etc.
Yeah, there was always this sort of, and it's a holdover from a lot of things and merits they could have in old systems that aren't the system. That somehow the Fianna and the Fae are like real simpatico, which, no?
Well, ancestral. Well, they were. I mean, if not completely simpatico, they were.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
But Fae also did super duper curse them.
Yes, they're super duper cursed from them.
Even in a game where most of the tribal weaknesses have been largely like abandoned as just silly. Not the Fianna though. And theirs is it's pretty rough.
It is.
They have a rough one.
Almost every Fianna PC I've heard has wrestled with Hirano because, of course, they are.
Well, yeah. I mean, you sort of know that going in. It's on the tin.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not just like, oh, this is my Fae buddy. I love the Fae. Like, do you? They gave you sadness cancer. Like, you just okay with that? Like, oh yeah, they did give us the sadness cancer. Yeah.
Questions. Will the tribal curse be lessened by this wedding thing if it isn't ruined anyways? That's a great question. That is a great question to think about. I see. If you know more about the particulars of the wedding, about who the groom and bride are, you may learn some more towards where that might be going. What about wild-focused PCs? Are they the wild allies of this venue? Yeah, absolutely. The idea is to bring out somebody who's more wild than even the Geru and try to make them wrestle with what that means. Because the Geru, despite their love of the wild, are Gaian, not wild.
Right.
It's a different animal.
They're corrupted. I mean,
it's not just that they're corrupted. They don't have they can have triadic leanings and they can really fall on it. But by default, they're Gaian, not.
Well, they are. What I'm saying is, from outside, any other member of the Triad looks at the Geru as sort of a not great conglomerate of. This is something that was played up sort of last Chronicle when the Weaver was like, "You guys are way wormier than like you only talk about the wild, but you're not actually like wild. You kill things all the time. That's of the worm. You go in thrall of the worm. Like you have." You're rage monster killing machines, like, and that's all still true in this chronicle as well. There's being Gaian is not just rah wild, like, and nor should it be. I do miss being wild tainted, because you take Weaver affinity, you take Wild affinity, and it looks like nothing but good times, but.
I do think Wild and Weaver Taint do add a lot to the story. Those are fun things.
I love those things. If there's another book that's going to come out, if a dev's watching, add flaws that are great.
Well, not only that, but I mean, Worm Taint isn't a flaw anymore. It's its own separate pool. I mean, the problem is
no, I know, but I mean,
being
like,
way too complicated. You're asking people to juggle like 12 more numbers on more axes.
Whoa,
that's a headache.
There's no limit to flaws. We're not talking about making more merits.
No.
one is saying.
But I'm saying worm affinity, worm taint is it's basically a scale.
No,
it's not a flaw.
Right, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about with
Yeah.
like wild taint and weaver taint.
They may not.
Oh, okay. So back in the day, if you got too wild, you were wild tainted, and you couldn't use anything beyond basically a stick. As like no tools, nothing made by machines, none of that. So it was good for very certain types of characters, but would rapidly become inconvenient. For on the other hand, if you were weaver tainted, you couldn't do anything without
a tool.
Without a tool. So somebody could, like, if they gave you a bowl of soup in an earthenware,
he just locks himself in the corner, designing an elaborate apparatus to bring the soup to his mouth.
You need to make a soup-a-majig.
He's got a crank
that has a crank.
Yeah.
Or a gear or electronics involved to rocket the soup.
He's got his Raspberry Pi hooked up to some USB thingamajobber.
Right, I did it with an Arduino chip, a spoon, and this like ATV battery, and then I put it all on this crank. Weaver taint, like, they weren't important things, but I thought that the little touches like that, especially flaws, help flavor the world. Because I love lots of flaws. And the thing is that Werewolf mostly just picked up all of the flaws of Vampire.
Well, I think there's plenty of new flaws.
Yeah, that are like specific to Werewolf, but like the generic ones are all, and I imagine they're also going to carry over into the other games, and that's fine. They have a shot.
I think that makes sense though for them to be like out of a basic pool and have things for different genres.
But I don't think that just let your creative juices run wild, devs, in the flaw category, because you can never have too many flaws.
Rokea should be considered of wild, not Gaia, but that was their culture more than anything. Yeah, of course I was speaking of Geru when I speak of Gaian. Some of the Fera are much more attuned to one member of the Triad or another, and one of them just picks one of the Triad and loving them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
There's a lot of that. And there was the Stargazers filled the role of, for a long time, or they used to anyway, of being like, hey, we need to be kind of about all the Triad. Especially that prefix, meaning 3. Can't just fight the worm by murder facing it. We should be, thinking with our noodles. Maybe help it out. Fix the whole world. Because,
I gotta say, the players have had their little shit together the last 2 months. The clock has moved back by a total of a minute over the last 2 months. It's pretty impressive, actually. Either that or your STs are going soft on you.
Yeah, they're going soft.
STs?
Don't go soft.
Are you going soft out there?
Don't ever go soft. Only come up.
Or maybe the players are doing really well. Maybe the players are being extraordinarily clever and they're just kicking ass. That's entirely possible, too.
Well, I mean, players do learn.
They do?
Yeah. We're all vertebrates. We're capable of learning.
There was a shitstorm in Houston. There was a complete shitstorm in Houston. I've heard nothing but cool stuff about it.
That's Jewish. It's fine. I don't want to explain it.
You're not going to explain that to the rest of us?
It's like we're making the world a better place. It's what the Jews are. One of the things we're chosen to do.
Yeah, Razortooth is dead. Come on, he's just regenerating. Or maybe he is dead for real. But whenever I see a badass Rokea die, I assume they're going to be fine.
See, I don't, because there's always another Rokea there with, like, Swallow or Gulp. And, like, if you have Gulp, even if they're your friend, on principle, just end them.
Really? You're a monster.
I am a monster. But yeah, in the game where it's like, if any part of you is, like, not digested, then you will live another day, is, like, the same subgenre that everyone has Gulp.
I don't want to be picking like pieces of Jimmy out of stool, trying to find enough to resurrect. That is gross.
Right, Gulp is one of the things that overcomes the merit.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like, no, you got eaten.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It doesn't happen on land that much. The PCs and NPCs don't actually tend to eat each other beyond just doing the damage with their mouth parts. And then they just like give up.
I don't know. I saw a lot of people getting swallowed whole at Sear when we were there. There was a lot of sharks eating things whole.
Sharks doing it.
Yeah.
Save gulp.
Right.
No, oh, I see what you meant by on land. Terrestrial shapeshifters.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to aquatic shapeshifters. Right. Don't tend to eat their meals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just play with their food and then they want dessert.
Did I see your doomsday clock? I'm certain I did. In response to an earlier question, we generally average around 20 to 30 submissions for the doomsday clock a month, which is a very strong sampling. It's not even half of the chronicles, but it is enough to give you a strong sampling. Honestly, even if I required all STs to put it in, I doubt I would get a higher response rate than that, just because of the nature of the volunteer lifestyle. So 20 to 30 is pretty strong. I am very happy with that submission level. What was your fave that wasn't highlighted? Well, I don't think it'd be fair to pick something out of a hat like that. There's been a lot of really good stuff. I don't have an encyclopedic list off the top of my head of stuff we did and didn't use. It's like anything else. I'd think of something and be like, I have no idea if I put that in the actual write-up or not. Like, because you see it all, and it just sits in your head. So I don't have a good answer to that. You are so pushing me on this.
Who? What?
Our friend Alexia.
Yeah.
Is really pushing us to give some details on Doomsday Clock submissions. I'm not going to do it. That's
I don't get to see them. This is literally just talking to Brian. It's very boring for me.
Try to involve Bucky more.
Yeah.
Bucky matters. Look at this guy. That mustache. It's good.
I do have a mustache.
Yeah.
It's because that's your happy wife. Happy life.
It's good. It's good.
And I try to live by that.
It's good
Motto.
Yeah, no doubt.
Never thought I'd be a guy with a mustache, especially as a blonde man. A blonde mustache usually just is a way to tell the world I am into some creepy stuff. But you just gotta own it and wait until it gets really nice and full, and then people just start calling you sir. I have never been called sir as much since I put on the mustache.
Bucky, will being an aRST change your views or what you'll share on stream? Now that you've been co-opted by the system?
Will it change my views? No, they are unassailable. I don't. I've staffed and I've worked inside of enough systems long enough that I know I.
But will you be less?
Will I know like secret knowledge?
Well, because usually you talk a lot of shit about stuff. So will you be less willing to do that now?
I don't know. I do love talking shit about stuff, though.
You really do. That's
really,
true.
I mean, I don't think it's like my raison d'etre, but it's definitely something I'm into. If I had like super secret knowledge that I couldn't share, I probably just wouldn't share it.
Right.
That's a skill I can bring over from my professional life, but that doesn't even occur to me. It's just something that doesn't get brought up.
Right.
You know, like client stuff doesn't get brought up. I may have more sympathy to regional, slightly. But yeah, that's about it.
They want Bucky unfiltered, is what they're saying.
I don't have a lot of filters, and that's not just on the stream. Although you would imagine that since this is going on the internet forever, I would probably be more filtered. But I just, as a person, I don't have a lot of speeds. I sort of pared them down.
Yeah, that's a constant theme in our friendship, is me being like, Bucky, it's okay. This isn't a huge deal. Like, you know, you're going off on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say what I think, generally.
Do you plan to run any regional plots?
I did have some ideas for some regional stuff. I wanted to see basically where different bad guys landed and what's going on regionally before really putting stuff out there. But my idea of like things I like to do on that front is make basically runnable regional things that make sense with influence or with combat or with decentralized plot in the region, and then just give those toolkits over. I think I don't plan on doing anything particularly artificed in the near future for regional. But yeah, I'd love to confab on stuff. But yeah, that's about it.
Speaking of which, we are now 13 months into the Chronicle. Well, essentially 13 months in the Chronicle. I've still not run any proxy involving a chop. Feel really good about that. And as far as I know, I don't think my staff has either. So I feel really good about that, actually. I don't think there's a sense of loss in the community. I don't know. Do people miss giant proxies? It's been a while. We've had a chance to clear our breaths. Do you guys miss them? I don't think you do.
I'll say this. Other than occasionally getting to write some flavor text of somebody doing something cool or dying in a hilariously flamboyant manner, it was mostly hurry up and wait. Like that was the intrinsic problem.
That was the problem with them, is they're so slow.
Well, especially if they were popular, it would be like, hey, there's a proxy going on. X person is running it, like maybe Y and Z person is helping. Cool. 200 people are doing this. Okay, well, then we're going to have to wait for whoever's running it to read several hundred emails, cobble that into a story, throw a bunch of chops. Like, it really bottlenecks, like, really fast. You know what I mean?
Especially when death is on the line, because at that point the ST has to be very careful that everything is done. And the storyteller has to make sure everything is done right. Yeah, nobody wants that. And the quest system does help with that. It's true. The quest system works really well with small groups. Past a certain size, it just doesn't work because of the leadership restriction. So the quest system gives us a tool to keep things small, which is good. I imagine at some point there may be a raid on a Great Cairn or something like that, or some reason why we would do a giant proxy, but I just don't feel a pressing need for it, honestly, to do these like giant battle scenes. Because again, the system isn't really built for giant battle scenes. It's not like L5R where I have a table. And we all agree that these are the rules we're running to resolve a giant battle.
It is pretty entertaining that, like, one of the big gifts that seems like it's for that, view the battlefield. And even if you have view the battlefield and portents and, like, all of that, you can help a guy or gal.
Which is insanely powerful at the squad level battles that we're used to.
Exactly. At basically inter-pack fighting. Like, about a pack's worth fighting about a pack's worth with some other stuff going on as environmental threats.
But things like last session where we had last Chronicle, we had like 200 player proxies. The problem is the system breaks down because there's no way to abstract it. Everything has to be run at the individual level, so you have to simulate every individual's action. It's a breakdown in the system, and it's a problem. In Werewolf, game that wants you to have giant like multi-sept combats. There's not really a good way to resolve that. So
there's no system for it.
Right. So I think that which is beyond us we have to pass over in silence. Like I think we're better off without doing stuff the system isn't really designed to handle.
Yeah, well, because anything you're going to do from there has to be custom and homebrewed and sort of.
Which means anybody can disagree with it, or there's no fixed point.
It all works until some people are pissed off about what happened, and then it all falls apart, and that's not good.
Jason says small army rules. Yeah, pretty much exactly. Or basically, like I think L5R is a good system for that. I'm not sure if their LARP system does, but
let's put it this way. There's a lot of JRPGs out there, right? There's a lot of JRPGs that have a really large cast of characters, but there's not a lot of Suikoden's out there, right? There's not a lot that are like, oh, and by the way, also you're gonna lead armies, like, and there's a system for that,
right?
And it works sort of seamlessly with the game.
L5R has many versions of a LARP system, actually. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple editions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a newer one just came out. Yeah. Look at that.
I've always been very lukewarm about L5R.
I like it in tabletop. I really like the way it handles combat. Aside from Shadowrun, it's probably the best combat system I've worked with. Shadowrun is the Cadillac, but
L5R is an elegant, abstracted combat system that feels like there's a lot of value adds, and it reflects sort of the type of combat that you're in.
Well, I like that you can really be in different kinds of sword. Like, as a sword fighter, you can be like 8 different times. You can be the sword fighter who's really good at dueling, and you're good at that kind of combat. But in a battlefield, you're kind of shit.
Right, you're not helping a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of L5R out there. But if, and I don't know how many people got the Suikoden reference, but I like that so far there hasn't been any, like, mega battles. I don't miss them. Or I mean, and I was in a few of them. I just...
I wrote a bunch of them. Like, they're a lot of work.
I helped.
I think Elkwater was probably...
as much as I could.
I think institutionally we got to the point with Elkwater where we were able to do it, but it was still a huge headache, and we did end up abstracting a lot, and we ended up having local games run individual sorties within the larger fight. I think that's probably the best way to do it under Revised. I don't know the best way to do it under the system. We'll find out, I'm sure. Hives and quests. What about hives and quests? I don't understand the question. You're just saying 2 words. I don't know what those 2 words have to do with each other. Like taking out a hive with a quest?
No.
No.
If they can take out a Cairn with a quest, then that's fair.
I think with quests, if death and failure were more likely, then maybe we could have those discussions. But given that the way the quest system works, and it's a delightful, wonderful system for easing work on storytellers, but it's not really designed for huge life and death situations.
Yeah. Well, and they're all, they don't solve the problem of the bigger stuff because they're unidirectional.
Yeah.
So there's no oppositional quest system where it's like a team of 6 wants to quest in one direction and the other team of 6 wants to oppose them.
Right. And the fact that the rules basically allow any quest to be resolved to at max 2. Like, all your 5s become 2s. And, I don't like, I see what you're saying. I agree with you. I don't like the idea of a heroic quests being used to take out a hive. That doesn't make sense to me. I could see situations where a storyteller might want to use that system, but that's very limited to me. In general, taking out a hive should be something that's that should be like a year of work in a game.
You don't. Not only that, but unlike in Revised, the good guys no longer have really the tools to do that. Like all the rights and timing and ways that you.
Well, how would you crack a hive? Well, let's talk about it. How would you crack a hive in Revised, and why are all those things not working now?
Get a mage to do it. No, don't ever do that to your race trader. To werewolves, the race of Garu.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's not go crazy.
But yeah, a mage could just eat a Cairn or
a mage
hive.
can just eat a Cairn.
Yeah.
That's why you should kill mages on sight. Because no matter how good or friendly they are, eventually they're going to be low on quint, and they're going to be like, "Ooh, look at all those noms." And they will eat your Cairn because they had to, or they were going to die.
And this is in Revised we're talking about. Yeah. So the easiest way to do it is have a mage do it. The other way to do it is...
you get to the heart. You do a rite to trap the spirit into an object, and then you just poochie out. Cairn collapses. The bad guys could do it to the good guys as well. That was sort of the quickest way to do it was to buy 5 minutes alone. Now, theoretically, if you're in the heart of a Cairn, there was also a totem that didn't have to chop and just auto-kill you, but yeah, you could do it on the Vaughn. You just had to be close enough to get the spirit into a cookie and then run out the door.
Well, I mean, Incarna do lose their auto wins. That does make it easier to take out a pit, theoretically. Because Incarna can't just auto God Strike you.
Defending the Bawn as opposed to the heart never really made sense in Revised. Like, that was just something people did because it makes sense as humans, but it really is just sort of insane.
Speaking of the mechanics.
Yeah, you have a god that doesn't chop. You just let it do most of the work, and you hold that line, and you make sure they can't do a ritual to kidnap him. But that's about it. Your only job is to disrupt rituals that, for some reason, your totem can't.
Well, the other big issue in Revised was the urges die round 1.
As well they should. They were the wizards.
Which was another issue with cracking hives.
Well, that's something I honestly miss in Revised, is just waiting there, holding your action until somebody says the words, "I spend Gnosis," and you murder them. Take that, whiz boy, you pointy-hatted bastard.
I think in a tabletop world, that's great. In LARP, that was death. Because you had players sitting around for hours who couldn't do anything. So I think it's definitely an improvement.
No. The revised was... To even call it a complete system is a bit of a stretch.
Well, revised is it's much like the human brain, where it's a bunch of systems designed for other things that are doing other things, and they're all piled together with no semblance of sanity, and yet somehow it almost works. Yeah.
Theoretically, you should, the good or bad people should be able to do in the current system or revised was starve it out of Gnosis. Mm-hmm. The problem was, and to a greater or lesser extent still is, scarcity is not something that any of these systems have been able to crack.
Well, I think the current Cairn system actually gives... There are some mechanics for... If you can keep enough of the BSD population down, you can cause it to go down in level. But you have to just keep farming BSDs.
Right. Well, look at it from the bad guys. What happens when a PC dies?
A new PC who looks strangely similar appears. Usually.
Right.
Yeah. But in world, you have to ignore that. That's not part of it.
I understand that. If you're going to starve a place out of Gnosis, right, you have to basically devastate the population and keep it devastated. So that they can't get Gnosis. And the idea that if you had to go actually hunt spirits to get Gnosis, or if you can only get Gnosis from your cairn, then there would be scarcity. But we don't live in a world where there's scarcity.
I think you got a little bit off with the new book. Because in BNS, cairn size is based in large part on population.
No.
And if you can't maintain that it's less on maintaining X amount of Gnosis it is X amount of Geru or Gaians to maintain that cairn.
Right, but that's solely a PC issue.
What do you mean?
The bad guys don't have cairns like that. They have old stock cairns.
Yeah, and old stock cairns work on the same mechanic.
They work on a mechanic of having to need a certain amount of Gnosis and all that.
Is that true? I haven't looked at the Great Cairns recently in the BNS book.
There's no scarcity of Gnosis, though. Like, it's completely illusory. For a new Ish, you can just generate it. A bunch of gifts just give Gnosis. Like, I think they wanted it to be scarce, and then they completely backed off.
I feel like we're wandering off. Like, I don't know what you so. You're saying that Great Cairns...
You can't starve any cairn.
Okay, I'm gonna open the book. Hang on. Because I think it's driven by population, book.
Okay. I mean, we're
please hold. Fill the air, Bucky.
We're checking it now. Well, anyway, the idea is that it would be similar to like a Crusade, or Camarilla, like Doom book scenario, where we'll starve those camis or the Sabbat out of blood. It's like, that's not really something that the system lets you do. You can just have herd, and then you just magically generate this stuff. Or Spirit Pact. Like, there's just a lot of merits and a lot of powers as you give you gobs and gobs of Gnosis. It's one of the concerns that's going to be about Changeling, is making glamour glamorous and actually scarce is just not... making fuel scarce has really never been something that I think has been successfully done. Yeah. There's it's not just one background or anything like that, because there's ways of losing backgrounds. I mean,
okay, so here's the deal: a Great Cairn and pits work the same way. Rating between 1 and 5. All Great Cairns are protected by a Cairn totem, which is equal to the Cairn's rating plus 10. Great Cairn with a rating up to 2 has a Cairn totem 0 to rating 12. Okay. The Cairn heart possesses a number of health levels equal to 10 times the Great Cairn's rating, so you have to destroy the Cairn heart. So you have to do that many levels of damage to it.
Well, to be fair, the good thing...
and total spirit of the Cairn attracts other spirits. It has guardian spirits equal to 10 times the Cairn's rating.
You need a Theurge. You need a Theurge with Spirit Mastery to run in and punch it in its dumb face and banish it for the amount of time it takes you just kick a Cairn heart to death.
But it's purely by population. For every increment of a Cairn's rating, 20 Geru or Pharaoh must be bound to it. Failure to maintain that strength results in the Cairn rapidly fading. The population does not return... Oh, it takes a year, though. So you can take one level off per year by cutting the population.
That's hella slow. So in this current system, you got to do it with a raid, but you can't do it with a right. You're gonna have to actually kosher kick the spirits out and then beat the Cairnheart to death, which is fine. Given the numbers game, the thing is that hives are just more plentiful than any type of Cairn. They can just build them. They howl and then they put one up, like revised style. But yeah, they can run in and do the same thing. The thing is, I know that it's not. It's a consideration that's supposed to be ignored. Isn't the infinite number of PCs who are going to replace the last PCs you killed? Although there's something to be said for game size mattering. If you run in to kill the Cairn and everybody defends it and they do kill the Cairn, that's rough. It's also hard to do without actually killing all the people defending it. You can be sneaky about it. Because, I mean, I've seen whole games just sort of go off adventuring, just assuming that, like, an NPC warder, they got this. Like, the ST's with us. He's not running around doing anything without us. We're the game. Yeah. It's a lot more straightforward than it was in Revised.
Well, I think it's actually laid out in one book, in one place, which very much helps.
Well, it does help.
Yeah.
Also, there's no other systems just cheating.
Yeah.
There's no other form of supernatural. It just has a power that destroys Cairns.
Thank goodness. They probably wouldn't be popular.
Right.
You'd feel like the mages you'd have a lot in common with if you just get over the fact that they do accidentally eat Cairns.
I almost feel like it puts an onus on whoever writes aNST Mage on a long enough timeline to have some mechanic in the game that is so deeply problematic to werewolves that it explains their cultural hatred of them.
Well, it's not really the cultural hatred. I think it's tone. It's actually mentioned in BNS that werewolves are less pissed off by me. Just because
they haven't written a mage book. I'm telling you.
Okay.
There will always be a reason to hate them.
Yeah, economy of supernatural splat power is always going to be an issue. It's a very careful line to walk. I've said some thoughts about what I think. I think it's especially. I think it's a lurking time bomb for Changeling because it involves them turning their splat into money, and that money supposedly has value. Then you start actually having to deal with economy of splat, and I don't know. It might be. I think it's a more interesting problem than it is in Werewolf and Vampire. Although I would like it to be harder to get blood and Gnosis. It is what it is. You want players to have fun. They have cool powers. You have to let them use their cool powers. I mean, to some extent, you have to.
Look, I'm not saying that that it should be like the dust setting where, like, you know, you spend your blood to wake up that night, maybe, because, you know, it's that limited a resource. If you're lucky, you and your vampire buddies will find a pack of, like, skinny humans to get 5 points of blood out of them for everybody in your game. And then you got to dole it out. Or there are no spirits anymore, you know, because the apocalypse happened, the bombs dropped, and the
lowercase a apocalypse.
Right, the lowercase a apocalypse, and rad spirits don't give Gnosis. They just give Wormtail. Like, I don't know. But I don't. Maybe there is a craftable middle ground. Well, much like a morality system that works. It's just sort of. It hasn't been done. I understand the difficulties of it.
You know, the thing about the morality thing system is, I actually find morality comes into play more in Apocalypse, which has never had a system.
Right.
I think of that lack of system in APOC. I mean, I know the moral degradation is so core to Vampire, but I do find it very interesting that moral degradation, moral judgment...
That was true in Revised.
It was always true in APOC.
Yeah.
APOC never had a morality scale system, and morality was always a much bigger part of the game.
People always wrestled with what is good and right to do, either as a person, a werewolf, or because of the litany, and tormented themselves.
Well, I think the game design. It's one of the brilliant things about APOC game design is that it's an emergent thing that comes up. It's not something that needs a system.
Right.
People, because of who they're playing, naturally gravitate towards having to wrestle with these problems.
Right, and you also don't want to be of the worm. So doing things that are wormy or disincentivize Even if not mechanically.
Even with no mechanics.
Even if you don't walk out of every session where you were a total douche with like a point of worm taint. The point of worm taint's not what was stopping you. It was you're not supposed to do that, and that's your whole culture. The whole point of your existence is to fight that.
Have you guys considered the impact of werewolves on a war? Kinfolk getting brought into the military and shipped off. I think the more interesting point is, and this is something players need to remember, is there are maybe a couple thousand werewolves in the world, maybe a couple thousand. If the U.S. military ever decided that werewolves were a real thing and a problem,
they just wiped them.
Did you just get liquidated? Like, players are very cavalier about the veil. But it's so life or death, because werewolves can't really disappear. They're bad at it.
Later changing in Bitten does offer the opportunity for people to make the characters that I think they were making anyway in Revised, where they were like, I was a cop, or I was in the army. It was like, you were cursed. Like, especially in Revised, you were hella cursed. How did you even go to school? Like, just going to high school was pretty much impossible for you. Well, everyone around you would be like, oh my god, they're here. Well, run.
Try standing in a battlefield and never gaining any rage to the curse kicks in. Even in BNS, it's not tenable.
Yeah, none of that works. Or like just going through basic training with a guy whose job it is to scream at you and just keep that together as a werewolf. That's not...
Yeah, but the idea of werewolves going to fight in human conflicts, I think, is outside the scope of our chronicle. I don't see
kinfolk. Specifically kinfolk.
Kinfolk. I mean, kinfolk, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of kinfolk play vets. Yeah, absolutely.
I've always been against that. Kinfolk are a very limited resource. And just the idea that werewolf...
This is the minefield. This is the minefield. There's a minefield here, Bucky.
That's fine, but the idea that werewolves, or even kinfolk, amongst their own sort of cultural norms and mores, would be like, you know what matters more than our struggle against the end of days that is our socio-religious and spiritual imperative? That Panama's acting up, or like whatever the regional conflict is.
There's higher stakes.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, like, don't even think about it now. I get we live in this age now, but you're playing characters who generally have to have backgrounds that are written in the past. Do you really think your kinfolk was, like, psyched to, like, be on exercise during Grenada? Like, was that, like, a thing that you'd be, like, abandoning the cairn for and the fight against, you know, the end of days happening? We're like, yeah, it's oil in the Mideast. It definitely matters way more than stopping the worm.
I mean, if we had a full nuclear exchange or something go off, I think that would definitely become more of an existential thing. But that hasn't happened, and I don't know if it will.
A world war, maybe. Yeah. But the problem is, then you've got sort of the White Wolf issue of trying to write the last World War in a way that wasn't like extremely offensive to everybody. I would imagine they would be involved in a war where their place was invaded. But short of the U.S. being invaded in some sort of weird semi-supernatural Red Dawn nuclear apocalypse Boyna's dog world, what is it? You're on this world but not of it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Like, you're not people. You're not even the same species. And this is something that I got to play up in different ways to different PCs and NPCs. One was because they were a metis, who was talking about, like, wolves and, like, we're wolves. It's like, you were never a wolf. Like, even amongst people who did grow up as wolves, because there was a lot of lupus there, you were very specifically not a wolf. But it's also come up in conversation with other people talking about, like, we're all people. You're a totally different species. You're not wolf. You're not human. You are a hybrid creature that can occasionally, on a long enough timeline, interbreed long enough to maybe make more hybrids. But that's it. You're your own species. You're just Garu. Separate ecosystem. And that alienation is part and parcel with being a bunch of, essentially, religious fanatic eco-terrorists, which makes it work. I think it helps. And the more grounded you want to make your characters, that can be fine, but you need to play up that incredible dissonance. Like, because that should be an overwhelming force in your life. That, like, you trying to keep down a day job considering the stakes of the werewolf game, is laughable.
Mm-hmm.
Like
as a Garo.
Like as a Garo, or even as a kinfolk. Mm-hmm. Especially in the military, where you're like, I have to leave for weeks or months at a time, and you're just going to have to assume I get back safe. Because that matters more than everything our people talk about and do every day. If you're going to do it, it should be, people should act like you're crazy. And that should be a good... It's like playing a Metis. You know you should get that kind of static and feedback, and that people are going to bust your chops. Right. And if you're okay with that, that's cool. And if you don't get that, that's disappointing. That's like playing the Kate if everybody's nice too, because nobody really wants to be mean to another player. And be like, oh, okay, you're a piece of garbage, and I don't want to talk to you. Because you're like, no, there's only 6 people who showed up today. Or 10 people. Or 15. I'm not going to be a dick to a 15th of the game. Like, I'm going to tone it down. That's just something people do. Like, and I get that, but I don't know. Yeah. I think that went off in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, you really aimed that you were just spray.
It was. Yeah. So many things disappoint me. Hashtag a lot of things disappoint Bucky. Any other really short questions that deserve 20-minute rant
really answers? Simple questions.
Just really short one-off questions that can just get me going.
They're thinking.
No, I know. I was trying to catch up. Here's the weird thing. I know objectively my vision is good. Except when it comes to reading the scrolling question thing over there. It's just something about it. And you can't... That sort of helps. I think tilting... It doesn't really matter.
Alright. Will Garo ever wage a war against vampires? I mean, by BNS, there is and I think this is overlooked, is that there's basically
an accord?
No, even
Sorry,
an accord.
Not to use that word.
Both sides are basically looking the other direction right now, because the Gangrel did sort of help save the world. So, they're kind of looking the other way right now. If one side fucks up, and it escalates, then yeah, it could escalate into something really terrible. And... distracting, because the vampires, as vile and worm-tainted as they may well be, are just not the core problem.
They also downgraded the how worm-tainted they are. On a spectrum where everything is worm-tainted, including Garo. Saying we should have a war with the werewolves is like, we should be leveling all of the fast food joints.
Because
in genre... they're all tainted, at least a little bit. Right. That's where you're like weird urge bands and all that other gobbledygook comes from. It's like cigarettes. So cigarettes, right? Cigarettes, smoking, tobacco, spiritual, but smoking is of the worm. I'm not going to unwrap that, but tar definitely is, and all that other bad stuff. Are you going to level every newsstand? Because you know it's happening. You are supposed to fight the worm everywhere. But you don't? Because that's stupid. As far as vampires, it's less stupid. But it's still very much like, hey, let's derail our spiritual journey to save the whole Earth to ruin the day of Fomors who can't even go out for half of the day. Or all of the day.
Luckily, because we were asking for easy, simple questions, we get this one. How do we have a chronicle where PC antagonists, i.e. characters with hardline opinions, coexist with hardline in the other direction characters, where it doesn't become cartoony or lead to bleed and bad times? Nice, easy questions.
Okay.
Well, let me say something really short first. Okay. If you want to see how it can be done to play as a character with a hardline position and still not be antagonistic towards everyone else because you are still on the same team even if you disagree, is look at what the Red Talon players are doing. I mean, that's where I would start. Look at where the Red Talon players are doing and how they do it. They're polite, they are civil, they are respectful, and they just do not fucking agree. And they are doing their own thing. And I think that's a great place to start, I think.
I think the term antagonist gets thrown around a lot.
Well, I think I disagree. I disagree with using PC. When I say PC antagonists, I find it to be very different than players with hardline opinions opposing each other. I think those are not even different to a degree. I think those are fundamentally different concepts.
Well, right, because it's not strictly into. Like, I realize that the term PC antagonist gets thrown around a lot and people want to be it, but let's put it this way. If I want to play chess, right, I fundamentally need someone else to play chess with.
Right.
And our agreement to play chess is not antagonistic in nature. We are both here to play chess. Or, whatever, Rummy Cube or fucking backgammon. Doesn't matter what the game is. The players are there on like a fundamental level to play the game. And even if the goal of the game is to beat another thing, I feel like calling it antagonism like tries to abstract it and makes it an excuse for things. If I'm playing a character, right, and you play a character whose solution to a problem is to murder me, my character, not me. Don't murder players. Yeah, that could ruin your day. And that person may or may not describe themselves as an antagonist PC, but your tune's still dead and you're upset. Like, as far as preventing bleed, honestly, bleed is something you have to look inward to deal with.
I don't think any directives can be put out to minimize bleed. I don't think there's anything top-down we can do to minimize bleed, except to just be relaxed and chill with everybody as impartial referees.
Well, out of game. Yeah. Don't metagame. Don't bring the game out of game. Like, don't do that. Don't. And people tend to do it. They tend to be aloof, at least to the people they play against, and out of game friendly to the people they're allied with because they're hanging out with them. And that's human nature. And in a game with so many different people and sides, you have to actively fight against that habit.
And also, as we talked about this a long time ago, and it's appropriate for given this weekend, is that bleed isn't something innately bad. It means you're feeling something. And it's something we experience in all across our lives. Football, if you're following a sports team, you almost certainly are experiencing some bleed. Like, anything you care about, you're going to experience some bleed about.
I do find it frustrating that only in, like, gaming is it called bleed, as opposed to just, like, every place else where it's just your level of investment, or emotional investment, or tie-in, or fandom, or all of the million other words that, I don't know. What do they call normal people now? The mundanes, normies, whatever the young people say normal folk are. The general populace gets really swept up in events, just like everybody else, just like gamers. So, like, how do you go to a Red Sox game as a Yankees fan, or vice versa, without being a hooting douche nozzle?
Because the answer to that question is the exact question that they're asking.
The answer to that isn't going to be with what can the Yankees and the Red Sox do? What can Major League Baseball do to make sure I'm not a piece of shit to another human being who's wearing a jersey that I don't like? That's not the role of Major League Baseball, or the teams, or the managers, or the pitcher, or the umps. They're not responsible. Like, when it comes to your emotional investment or over-emotional investment, you really you have to look inward. That is a you problem, not an organizational thing. Or, like, because every organization involved is actively telling people, don't be a fucking asshole out of game. Like, just don't do it.
And I don't think anybody thinks they're being an asshole. I think we can go down the line and say 99% of people don't think they're being assholes.
I'm not going to give it that high a percentage. There are too many players that are too proud of being assholes. Like, I mean, maybe not assholes, but they're like, oh, I liked it. I can make the game better because somebody got really upset. Like, did that...
But in large part, in the general case, people see IC antagonism and they assume an out-of-character level of antipathy that often isn't there.
I think that's a conversation that has to happen both ways. Where like, look, sometimes it's I just heard it discussed as it's what my character would do, sort of like as a disease, as an excuse to be a douche to people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain point where you're like, well, I'm playing a Camarilla Exemplar. You're like, I don't know, caitiff, independent, whatever. Mm-hmm. You just killed a guy. I mean, we're killing you. We're gonna murder you. Like, I don't want to, like, fucking shit in your Cheerios as a person, but my character's got to fucking kill your character. Otherwise, the whole game state falls apart. You can't not move your pawn forward because the other person might lose the chess match. Like, that is a thing. Mm-hmm. But by the same token, you have to understand that that's the game you're playing. Your character might get rolled. You might be the roller. You might not want to have anything to do with that game and assiduously avoid combat. That's cool. Make your character as a coward. Like, and then embrace that. And if you get killed, you didn't accomplish your character's goal.
If you're playing APOC, you're gonna die. That's just gonna happen.
That's not true. I have played not my character. My character is, like most of my characters, borderline suicidal. But I have played inveterate cowards in every genre available, and no one ever sees that coming. Everybody is like, "Oh no, he'll have my back when push comes to shove," and then I have not had their back. And I've watched people die, like, to get killed by NPCs. They're like, "Why didn't you help?" I'm like, what about me?
What led you to believe?
What led you to believe I was? Well, you said that, you like acted really tough. Yeah, so you wouldn't kill me because I'm a coward. Like, or the character, like, I don't know. Yeah, but bleed isn't on the game or the cosmos. Checking in, that's part of it, but just talk.
Well, I think it's also a big part of creating a community where people feel friendly out of character as local and regional and national storytellers. It's making everybody feel comfortable, and I think that goes a long way. Yeah, it's funny when people think they're going to box you and then you make them like you. We always say whenever somebody's actually, usually when Bucky's characters die, it's because they just get killed. When Bucky's going to get boxed, it's hilarious because they invariably make the mistake of letting Bucky talk. And that is just the worst thing they can ever fucking do. Just kill Bucky.
I bought a lot
Just kill Bucky. Don't try to set up an elaborate kill box. Just fucking kill him.
I was abducted by, this is years ago, by all of, like, the Sabat on Honorable Accord to just be, like, murder-faced in front of everybody.
You're like the fucking doctor. Just don't let the guy talk.
Right. And I was talking and somebody's like, I don't know, it's kind of metagaming. I'm like, nope, I bought all these levels of law on my character for no good goddamn reason, just an XP tax, so I can RP. And they were like, he makes a lot of good arguments. I think we should give him status and let him go. How did that happen? Like,
well, Flintmouth is a great example of a character who keeps inexplicably not getting rolled, because you always have a good explanation.
Well,
which is funny.
Because I came up with a character concept I thought was compelling, and on its surface face, it just looks terrible. It looks like shit. Mm-hmm. It looks like every character you hate. Like, I'm gonna make a Lupus Glasswalker. I'm gonna make a Hamid, like, Red Town. You're like, oh, okay, buddy. There's, like, a lot of tribes. You can just try to make a character that's more than one-dimensional. And they did that, but it doesn't look more than one-dimensional. It looks like garbage. And then you tell people, like, this is my thinking, and they're like, oh, okay, that scans. Like, that's cool.
I gotta say, making an in-depth three-dimensional character who looks one-dimensional is very difficult. There are a few players in the org who do it really well, who they look like they're just a walking stereotype, but they actually have a lot of stuff going on. I'd love those characters. Those are the characters that always stand out for me. Because you understand the character immediately, and then the more you get to know about them, you realize you don't understand them at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. But that being said, we've gone 90 minutes. Things seem to be slowing down.
Eater of Bears finds Flintmouth interesting. That's a word I'll take. I'll take interesting.
So let's close tonight with a solemn and frank fuck Tom Brady. Fuck Tom Brady.
Yeah, fuck Tom Brady.
And have a lovely week. We'll talk to you guys soon, okay? Good home.
That was abrupt, but be well.
Yeah. I felt we were good. I felt like a good exit.
Yeah. Yes. I want to give them a chance. There you go.
There you go. Now they're saying fuck Tom Brady. There you go.
Well, enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you in a couple weeks when there isn't a Super Bowl. And I'm hiccuping.
Yep.